Good morning, County Council. It is nice that we've been able to all get here nice and safe, and maybe we'll see some sunshine by the end of the day. I'd like to call to order this County Council meeting of February 27th, 2025. At this point in time, please join us as you are able to stand for O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please lead the roll call?
Councillor Mackey, Councillor McKay, Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle, Councillor McQueen, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert, Councillor Kentner, Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Body Senses regrets today, Councillor Gregg, Councillor Milne, Councillor Dobreen, Warden Matrosovs, present, Councillor Bourdignon,
Present.
Councillor Eccles, Councillor Hutchinson. Present. We have all members in attendance today with the exception of Councillor Body.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this point in time, we'd like to do the land acknowledgement. Let us begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg Nation, the people of the Three Fires known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further, we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. To our south lies the traditional territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. At this point in time, I'll call for a declaration of any interests. Not seeing any hands go up. We'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. It's item 6A. It's recommended that the minutes of the County Council meeting and the Committee of the Whole meeting dated February 13th, 2025, and the resolutions contained therein be adopted as presented. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by the Deputy Warden and seconded by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Okay. We can call that vote. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Next, we have item 6B. It's the closed Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of February 13th, 2025. It's recommended that the closed session Committee of the Whole minutes dated February 13th, 2025 be adopted as provided. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. We do not have any closed meeting matters at this point, nor reports. That allows us to move to the bylaws. It's recommended that bylaw 5223-25, the bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council be introduced and be taken as read first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the warden and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. News and celebrations. We have two great updates to be provided by Director Myers. So if you'd like to come on up, we'll begin with you, and then we will look to see if we have some news and celebrations from county council members.
Thank you so much. Good morning, County Council. The snow has stopped. We're here. It's a very exciting day. Okay, I messed up. No, I did. Okay, perfect. Looks different today. Two really exciting kind of post-event updates to bring to you today. So the first one is the 2025 Regional Job Fair. It was hosted last week. The roads opened one day in advance, which was excellent news. We had put some feelers out to our businesses the day before to say, we understand everyone has been struggling through the weather that we have had. Do you want to continue? We'd like to continue. Are you in? And the overwhelming majority was yes, please, we want to move ahead, which tells you the signs of the market. Now, when we planned the 2025 job fair this year, we shrunk it on purpose because all of the conversations we were having with our business, we knew that there was a change in the market. So what we have been finding is a more balanced market. So it is less difficult for businesses to find the people that they need because there are more people available. So we're starting to see that shift, which is really important. The job fair was a great success. We had over 600 job seekers come through. What we did hear from our businesses was that they were very satisfied with the clients that were coming through. So we're seeing higher skilled folks looking for work, which is good news for the businesses who are looking to fill highly skilled jobs. So we appreciate seeing that shift. We had 64 employers participate in the job fair this year. And like I said, just over 600 job seekers came through. What we did find in some very early results from talking to the employers is that most employers were leaving with at least 12 resumes that they were ready to proceed with an interview for. So that is a good sign. Again, reinforcing that the candidates were excellent coming through this year. So a huge thank you to Olivia for capturing our beautiful day and making the photos really speak to what was happening and seeing those connections being made. So we've got a couple to share here with you, and a thank you also to the warden who attended and spoke to, I think, almost every single booth on her way through. And there were so many compliments and appreciation from the businesses from being able to have your ear for those few minutes. So it was really appreciated. But all in all, it was a partnered event, once again, held here in Owen Sound, the largest regional job fair in the area, focused very much on this market this year, which was a good shift. So we're very pleased with what we heard out of the job fair, what we saw, the reactions that we had, and we're already speaking to our employers about what does it look like next year. The raining comment, please make it shorter because we keep them until 7 o'clock at night, and that's a long day for them. So that is likely a shift that we will make next year as we look forward to the next job fair. So that is the first update. Does anybody have any questions or anything about the job fair? Yes.
Thank you, Director Myers. I just wanted to add that because of weather, because of people's schedules, they may not necessarily be able to get to the job fair. So the fantastic follow-up is available on the website. Do you want to just let everybody know what can happen in case you didn't get a chance to go to the job fair, how to connect to these 64 employers?
That's an excellent point. Thank you very much. So the job fair page that we have on gray.ca lists all of the employers. We had provided the opportunity right before the job fair to be able to list their careers page on that website so that we can directly link. And we're also encouraging all of our employers to post on the YMCA job board because that job board represents our full region. It is one of the most popular job boards in the region. And then it is pulled into the 4-county Connect to Jobs website. So employers don't have to go to multiple places. They can go to one spot and it vacuums it into one location. So anytime you are talking to employers, please encourage them to post on the YMCA job board. And that's something that we will continue as well. And that will live on there for the foreseeable future. Thank you. Okay. Gather launch. So last Monday on Family Day, Gather campaign officially launched. Our full digital media campaign hit Amazon Prime, it hit social media, and we've had excellent results in the first week. So I do want to very quickly ask these amazing ladies here to stand, because this would not have been possible without Kalina and Heather and all of the work that they have put into this. So thank you, ladies. I know they don't like to do that, but they need to. You all know how long of a drive it has been to get this campaign up and going. But the results that we are already seeing and the conversation that it is starting in our community is exactly what we were going for. We're starting to see the pride built and realization that, oh my goodness, these things are happening in our community. These people are in our community. We are doing this here in Grey County. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. So there are two key focus areas that we are driving. One is local, and that is to build that community pride so that we're all talking the same story and all feeling that warmth and that heart that we have for our community in these beautiful videos and booklets that are out and about everywhere. And then the second target is going to the GTA specifically, focusing on the tourists who come here so that they can fall in love and become residents one day as well. So those are the two areas that we are focused on. And we wanted to share some stats with you because these are the first week of statistics. We had 2,879 views on YouTube, over 117 hours of these videos watched, and we're talking 3-minute videos. So that's a lot of watching. And the impressions were over 4,700. Our social ad campaign, the reach was 16,000, views 23,000. So we know people are watching these multiple times and sharing them. The impressions over 35,000 and clicks through to the website was 2,000. Our website traffic views in that week was just over 8,400, and the Visit Grey Gather page that has its specific landing page was 1,178 views in those first week, which is phenomenal. So we know that it is hitting. We don't have any statistics to bring you back yet from Amazon Prime, but that is something that we will be able to report back as we move forward. But really excited to see what's happening in our business community, picking up and sharing it as well. And our favorite one so far has been the trout standing influence that we have got from Spring Hills Trout. So that was one of their shares, and we just loved it. We can't get a smile off our face when we see things like that. So we wanted to take a minute to be able to share one video with you today. We're going to focus on the Owen Sound Farmers Market. It is the latest video to be created. So all 9 are available. They are an active playlist. We encourage you to encourage your communities to watch these. You have the Gather booklet on your desks with all the rest of the printed materials we promised you. And all of our mayors have a bag underneath your feet with everything to go home to your counselors as well. So there's a package for everybody. So Rob is going to help me get the video up and going so that we can celebrate Gather.
Welcome to winter in Grey County, where the cold
Does anybody have any questions about Gather while Rob's looking for the sound? I don't want to keep him on the hot seat.
I think there are no questions because you've been well versing us along the way as this has been building. So this is quite the celebration at this point in time. Thank you. We have a question from Councillor DeBreen. Okay, we're good to go.
Welcome to winter in Grey County, where the cold weather brings us all together. I'm Roger Mooking, and today we're exploring how this vibrant region supports local producers in the heart of winter. From cozy markets to snowy mountaintop adventures, let's gather in Grey and savor the warmth of community. The Owen Sound Farmers Market is a vibrant hub of local products, community spirit, and artisanal goods. I'm Roger Mooking, and today we're diving into the heart of this vibrant market. From fresh coffee to authentic African and fast French cuisine, the farmers market has lots to explore and taste. tell me a little bit about the Owen Sound Farmers Market. It feels like it's been here forever.
It has been here forever. In fact, we're a producer market, so you have to either have grown it, baked it, made it, fed it, produced it in order to be here.
So roughly how many vendors, how many guests are coming through every Saturday?
We can have up to 60.
Up to 60 vendors.
During summer, during winter, we obviously don't have as much space.
And how many guests roughly? Like when it's really busy in the summertime?
Peak time, 1,500 people, and we're
Wow.
open every Saturday year round. And we have very dedicated market patrons. It means a lot to a lot of people.
I'm kind of jealous of your hat. Can I get one of these bags?
Yeah,
Thank you very much,
it's
Marin.
beautiful.
I see you.
Cheers.
I'm gonna go walk around. Okay, Gilles, you're famous here in Owen Sound Farmers Market for making crepes and galettes.
Yes.
Right? So how did you get into doing that?
Well, I'm from Bretagne in France, so that's where the crepes and galette are from.
So you're born to do this.
Yeah, I'm born to do this.
How do we start?
Okay, so we got the batter, so it's buckwheat, water, and eggs. Don't put any pressure.
Ah, the natural weight, right?
Yeah.
And how long does this take?
Just a couple minutes. It's fast French food.
Okay, so now it's like bubbling up like
Yeah.
this. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, but then we're gonna flip it to put the filling inside. Do you want to pass me the mushroom first?
Okay. And I see some herbs in there.
Parsley.
Oh, parsley.
Parsley and some garlic.
Oh, some garlic. Okay.
Old cheddar. Nice and generous.
Look at that. And then the ham.
Old-fashioned ham.
So this is the most famous galette that you make.
Yeah,
How many of these are you selling on a weekend?
a lot.
A lot. It's too many to count. All right. And then you close it up.
Yeah.
I like the little crease you do before you do the last fold.
Yeah, it's 8 to 4, right?
Man, that one is thick.
There you go.
Look at that one, that one is
That's
a
why, you know why
thick
it's
one.
more popular. It's nice breakfast.
Ooh, yeah. That's a hearty breakfast. That's a hearty breakfast.
You're gonna find out why it's the most popular.
Why is it the most popular? Really good. Gilles,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
When you come to Owen Sound Farmers Market, check out the crepes guy. Gilles will hook you up.
Thanks.
I'm gonna take this one to go. So this is Dee Dee's Authentic African Kitchen.
You're right.
So how long have you been here?
About a year and a half, almost 2 years.
So what kind of cuisine are you doing here? From what region of Africa? What country?
So it's mainly Ghanaian cuisine.
So what kind of stuff are you serving here?
So mostly the meat pies, and I have frozen jollof rice. It's really good. But the meat pies are the most kind of popular ones.
So can I try some of those meat pies that you have here?
Oh, certainly.
So who makes the better jollof rice, the Ghanaians or the Nigerians?
Oh, Ghanaians.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to dig into that. The local community loves it. I know I'm gonna love it too. Well, I know because I already had it before. Thank you, Ivy.
Thank
See you,
you.
okay?
Thank you.
Respect.
Gather in Gray and savor the taste of community. Discover more Gather videos and learn more about Gray County at gatheringray.ca.
Indeed, we're all thinking about lunch now. So at this point in time, are there news and celebrations from our member municipalities? Okay, we'll begin with Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Board Microsoft. I'm sure you're all as excited as I am. It's voting day. I love the fact that we're having an opportunity to vote today, and I'm definitely a wait till voting day kind of guy. I just wanted to share, AMO has done a fantastic job of bringing together all the different parties, platforms, and how they'll affect municipalities. I said yesterday at our Great Highlands Council meeting, in the past, you vote for different reasons. This year, my vote is 100% why and how we're going to be supported as municipalities. We are all struggling for various different reasons. And so I'm just trying to encourage, make sure everybody who's listening, I'm sure we'll get thousands of people watching our Great County meeting. Make sure you go out and vote. 44% was not enough in the last provincial election. Doesn't matter who you vote for, as long as you get out and vote. let's see over 50%. Let's make sure we're getting the right people in office. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Councillor Carlton.
Thank you, Warden Mantersos, and good morning to everyone on County Council and staff. This past Sunday was Polar Plunge for Special Olympics at Shallow Lake Community Center. And the goal set was $2,500. They've raised well over $3,000. And my grandson, the 14-year-old, went in for me. So, and said he would do it again next year. So I didn't have to do it, but it was a wonderful event with Inner Township Fire Department, OPP, township staff, and paramedics all working together to raise those funds. So thank you to everyone who supported.
That's right. Be careful what you wish for, Councillor Carlton. You might need to dip your toes next year. And indeed, 24 Hours at Blue was also very well received for raising funds for Special Olympics and also for the Blue Mountain Village Association, the local community support as well. It was a good partnership, including with our OPP. Excellent. So others, will go to Councillor Keaveney.
Good morning, Warden Matrosovs and County Council. And I just wanted to talk about Meaford celebrating International Women's Day. That's going to be happening on March the 7th in the Meaford Hall Galleries. And this is a joint event supported by the Meaford Culture Foundation and the Meaford Hospital Foundation. There will be a panel of women speakers, all very accomplished in the afternoon. One of them is Megan Silk, and she's the founder of Ginger Bug Syrup, and she was on Dragon's Den, so she's kind of a local star. This is going to take place from 1 until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a great opportunity for women's networking. There'll be a marketplace showcasing women entrepreneurs, and there's also a raffle called a Refresh Raffle, and the prize is a $2,000 makeover. Tickets are $20, and tickets for the overall event are $50, and they're available from Andrea Roylance, and her phone number is 519-538-1311, or just Google the Meaford Cultural Foundation or the Meaford Hospital Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looking around the room for additional items, we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
And it's a celebration following on Councillor Carlton and yourself, Madam Warden, the Polar Plunge for Special Olympics in West Grey. We had Frazzle Fest, which is not necessarily a celebration of Frazzle Ice, but it's a celebration of us conquering Frazzle Ice in West Grey continuously, seemingly every year. But in addition to that, this year at Frazzle Fest, we did have the Polar Plunge and participation from EMS, Grey County EMS members, our own fire department, municipal police force, as well as a number of members from the Owen Sound police force came down to jump into the warm waters of the Saugeen River. We pumped the water right out of the Saugeen River and put it into the pond there, and we raised a number of funds and was well attended. I did attend and participated. I stood by the side and clapped for all those that jumped in. A annual event, and well done, and congratulations to those individuals for their support for Special Olympics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just looking around the room, and we'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Good morning, Warden, County Council, and staff. Just wanted to remind everyone that Saturday, March 1st, from 4 until 7 at the Dundalk United Church, Junction Community Initiatives will be holding their closing ceremony for Black History Month. There will be fashion, fun, and food. So if you can make it out, we'd really like to see you.
Thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Nielsen.
Sorry, Warden, I wouldn't try to take over too much time. I just wanted to comment on the coldest night of the year events that took place across Grey and Bruce counties. Grey Highlands did play host to one stemming out of the CHC in Markdale. Councillor Dobreen was wonderful to join the Municipality of Grey Highlands team. Our walk raised over $14,000, and I heard that collectively across Grey Bruce They raised over $187,000 for homeless, hunger, and hurt. And it's just a fantastic campaign that happens, and just wanted to share that.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Kentner, and then we'll go to Councillor Borden after that.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'd just like to add, because Meaford also participated in the coldest night of the year and raised over $18,000. I just wasn't aware of the figure yet, but that was excellent. I think we did very close to that last year too, so but getting bigger and better every year.
Thank you. And over to you, Councillor Borden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Good morning, County Council. Just this past Monday, we have a very vibrant local Legion life and community, and at Local 281, they had their annual awards banquet. Madam Mayor was there in her capacity for the town of Blue Mountains. And it was just a great celebration of members and affiliate members getting service pins anywhere from 5 years to over 50 years of service to the local Legion, from business owners to farmers to just local community members. And it was just a great celebration at St. George's Church. And I just wanted to highlight the work that the Legion does and through philanthropy as well as community outreach to our seniors. It was just a great event held by all. Thank you, Madam Warden.
Thank you indeed, and a message of all of the Legions in our Grey County that celebrate the same. It was wonderful to be there. Not seen any further hands. I will just say that it's not in conflict with Councillor Keaveney's event because to celebrate International Women's Day in the Blue Mountains, there is a Thursday evening event, so people can attend more than one thing if they like. For us, we partner with the Blue Mountain Chamber of Commerce, and this particular focus of this particular year is to highlight women entrepreneurs, and it is done in a kind of Dragon's Den style. It's a pitch night for some very varied businesses. They're keeping the names of the businesses that made it through the eligibility process a secret, but they've kind of created a bit of a teaser by giving us a list of the variety of the different businesses. So if you're interested in that, come and support that. Hear these women leaders in their businesses and what they're doing to their hopes of expanding and building their enterprises. And with that, the only other thing that I'm going to mention is for those who are like me, who are fellow model train enthusiasts. I'm thinking of you, Deputy Warden, at the moment. That March 1st over at our Grey Roots Museum is going to be the special day when the local Blue Water Model Railroad Club is putting on a great day for everyone. So if you have family members or friends that you can think of, encourage them to check that out at the Grey Roots website. Okay, so with that, not seeing any further hands, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Dorbreen and seconded by Councillor Pringle. All those in favor? And this meeting is adjourned. We'll give technology a few moments to switch over to Committee of the Whole. Thank you. So I'd now like to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of February 27th, 2025. At this point in time, I'll put out a call. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. We have business arising from the minutes. There is an item that was published, item 3A. However, Councillor Body is not able to move that motion today, so that will need to be rescheduled to the March 13th meeting instead, as he is not here to move the motion that he had served at the previous meeting. So with that, we will move down to delegations. We actually don't have any, so we can move on to determination of items requiring separate discussion. And the items are listed in the consent agenda. And Madam CAO, you and I had talked that we should pull 6B just so we can provide a bit of an update in terms of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. Are there any other items listed in section 6 that need to be pulled? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. So Madam Clerk will do this motion first, and then we'll go back to 6B at the end. Okay, thank you. So it's moved that it's recommended that the following consent agenda items be received, and that staff be authorized to take the actions necessary to give effect to the recommendations in the staff reports, and that the correspondence be supported or received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. We'll do moved by Councillor Nielsen and seconded by Councillor McQueen. Any discussion on receiving those? Okay, all those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. That allows us to move down to section 7, which is items for direction and discussion. So at this point in time, we'll have a look at item 7A, and we'll hear from Director Spicer on this, but I'll look for a mover and a seconder first, that the Budget and Finance Committee minutes of dated February 20th, 2025 be adopted as presented, and the following resolutions contained therein be endorsed. Number 1, that Councillor Eccles be nominated chair of the Budget and Finance Committee for 2025. Number 2, that Councillor Milne be nominated for the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee of 2025. And number 3, that Councillor Eccles be elected as vice chair of the Budget and Finance Committee of 2025, that the report FRBFC 0225 regarding Ontario Regulation 284/09-2025 budget be received for information. And 5, that report FRBFC 0325 regarding the 2025 Budget and Finance Committee proposed work plan be received for information. And contained within the minutes, it is noted that after the first 2 that were put forward, that the Deputy Warden Milne will be the chair for this year, and Councillor Eccles, as noted, is the vice chair. So with that, then I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Okay, thank you. I'm going to make sure I'm looking this direction. So I'm going to take Councillor Mackey, and then I'll as moving, and then Councillor Dickert as seconding. And with that, it's on the floor for discussion. Any discussion? Okay, so maybe we'll hear from Director Spicer first, and then we'll come back to those questions. Director Spicer?
Thank you, through you, Madam Warden. So, as mentioned, we had the election of the chair and the vice chair. We had financial analyst Amanda Brooks present the annual report for compliance with Ontario Regulation 284/09. So a report to council is required if a municipality doesn't budget for amortization, post-employment benefits, solid waste, closure and post-closure costs. And the first 2 are the ones that apply to Gray. What that does is it looks to inform council whether levy funding and transfers to reserve for capital are at least as much as the annual amortization. And so, of course, amortization is based on history, and our budget is looking at the replacement cost into the future. The 2025 proposed work plan for the committee was reviewed with discussion on topics scheduled for each meeting and the timelines. I provided a verbal update on the 2024 audit. It's scheduled to begin April 7th and anticipated to take 3 weeks. We discussed what goes into preparing for the audit, as well as what the auditors look for. We also discussed the requirements for what we have to do as staff in maintaining trust accounts for long-term care. And committee suggested this would be a beneficial topic to include at a future long-term care committee management meeting. The tenure capital process was discussed. Committee said that having an understanding of how staff develops the forecast would be helpful. So over the course of this year, departments with significant capital spending such as transportation, housing, long-term care, IT, ECDEV, and planning will attend committee to discuss their processes. Deputy Treasurer Sue Murray presented a demo of Open Book platform. So that's based on the budget software implemented in 2024 that's called Questica. It's still in draft. Committee is going to be able to review and provide some feedback. The 2024 meeting structure was reviewed, and we had discussion on whether extended meeting times were required and whether added dates would be needed later in the year when we get into reviewing the 2026 draft budget. As a result, in October and November meeting length has since been extended, and additional dates will be discussed in September. And we also introduced Garrett Reed, who's been with us since 2021. He's been promoted into a new position as manager of accounting. And that's my update.
Thank you very much, Director Spicer. So I did see 2 hands go up, so I'll go to Councillor Nielsen first and then over to this side.
Thank you very much, Ward Microsoft. Just more of a comment. I appreciated the minutes and I appreciate this format where we're going to have a bit more of a discussion on some of the minutes we can fully understand. I just want to kind of reiterate a comment I made when we were discussing the committee change. There have been some of the Budget and Finance Committee meetings have been able to be streamlined. They were held in this space. Some of the meetings are held in the Bay Room, which can't be streamed. I'm just wondering if we can try to strive for some consistency there. Budget and Finance is one where I'm sure every member of the committee is interested in knowing and understanding the discussions. I'm just trying to emphasize if we can have consistency in the fact that these ones can be recorded and streamed live on YouTube so that our residents and ourselves can understand them.
Okay, thank you. I'll look to the clerk if there's any comment on that.
Thank you, and through you, thank you for the question. This is something that staff will be looking at shortly in terms of discussing what meetings we have staffing availability to stream and resources for the room. So that's something that we will be having conversation on in the near future.
Thank you. And there was a question, there was a hand that had been raised earlier over on this side. Maybe it's been answered by the presentation. Thank you. Okay, nothing online. All right, thank you very much, Director Spicer. So in that case then, with no further hands going up, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 7B. It's recommended that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes dated February 12th, 2025 be adopted as presented, and the following resolutions contained therein be endorsed. Number 1, that member Catherine Schultz be elected as the chair of the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for 2025. Number 2, that Grey Highlands 2024 progress report on the 2023 to 2027 multi-year accessibility plan be presented to Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for review and comment. Number 3, that the report Stothart Hall Accessibility Project be received and that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide input for consideration for the installation of accessible extension / washrooms. And number 4, that in consideration of the staff report of the West Grey Durham Lions Durham Community Center renovation projects, the committee receives the report for review and comment. And look for a mover and a seconder before we go to the clerk. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Dobreen. And with that, we will look to the clerk for comment.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. So the first item from the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes was the election of the chair. That is Catherine Schultz for the 2025 year. The second item the committee discussed was the in relation to the 2025 progress report on the multi-year accessibility plan for Grey Highlands. The staff report highlighted items that were accomplished that align with the 5-year accessibility plan. There were items around information and communication standards, employment standards, transportation standards, and design of public spaces. The next item the committee considered for review and comment was in relation to the Stothart Hall addition of accessible washrooms and the inclusion of an accessible ramp that would provide access to the washrooms on the upper and lower levels, as well as braille features and signage. The committee raised points about the surface material of the ramp and the width of the accessible spaces. The municipality of West Grey is undertaking 2 projects at the Durham Community Center. The first will be installing grab bars in the women's washroom and then kitchen improvements, including replacing the surface of the island in the kitchen and splitting the island into 2 separate workstations because it is quite long, making it difficult to move around the kitchen effectively. So there will be an aisle in between those 2 workstations going forward. The committee provided feedback on the proposed grab bar location to assist with space limitations in the washroom and a suggestion for hinge bars to be used. Resources were also shared on the accessible design for the built environment, which is a free resource and tool containing requirements for making buildings accessible. That's available online to be downloaded for anyone to use if they wish. Grey Root staff also were seeking feedback and input from the membership and to provide a quote for what they hope for the future as an addition to the hope section of the gallery at Grey Roots. That's all the update I have from those.
Thank you. Any questions? Not seeing any hand. Oh, yes, I do. That will go to Councillor Eccles.
There's just a couple of points in there under the Stoddard Hall. Is that going to be changed in the minutes? Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the clerk responded yes. Any other questions? Okay, then in that case, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Next, we'll move on to 7C. It's recommended that report PSR CW 0225 regarding the potential acquisition of land from the municipality of Grey Highlands for the construction of a new paramedic base be received, and that staff be directed to work with the municipality of Grey Highlands to acquire approximately 0.51 hectares or 1.26 acres of land municipally known as 494140 Grey Road 2 in Feversham, legally described as part of Lot 15, Concession 8 Osprey, being part of PIN 3726200063 in the former township of Osprey, municipality of Grey Highlands, and that the land acquisition be conditional on the title search and preliminary sites investigations being completed for the subject lands, and that staff be directed to retain the services of a surveyor and consultants to complete the necessary plans and studies to complete the land transfer, as well as to complete the design specification to finalize the tender to be released to construct the new base, and that all costs associated with the land transfer, the site investigations, and services required to complete the design specifications and tender be funded as per the 2025 budget, and that staff proceed prior to council approval as per section 26.6B of the procedural bylaw, and that the bylaw be presented for council's consideration at a future date to authorize the acquisition of lands. May I ask for a mover and a second? That's moved by Deputy Warden Milne, seconded by Councillor Patterson. It's now on the floor for discussion, and we'll begin with the Deputy CAO, and then we'll hear from Director McNabb as well.
Great, thank you, and good morning, everyone. We're just trying to get the presentation up here on the screen. No. Thank you. So this report recommends the potential acquisition of lands from the municipality of Grey Highlands for the construction of the new Feversham paramedic base. Next slide, please. The proposed new paramedic base in Feversham is one of the bases that is proposed as part of the comprehensive deployment review. These new bases are part of the overall service enhancements that will ensure that paramedic services can meet Grey County's growing demand and sustain current service levels up to 2033. Following the design and start of the construction of the first new paramedic base in the town of Durham, staff began investigations for the new paramedic base in the Feversham area, which is the second base to be constructed. Investigations determined that the ideal location for the new Feversham base would be located with direct access off of Grey Road 2 and in close proximity to the settlement area of Feversham, as well as in close proximity to Grey Road 4. When we start looking for properties, we first start by looking at properties that either the county owns or the local municipality owns. Next slide, please. So the subject lands, as shown on the map on the screen, are described as part of 494140 Grey Road 2. And these lands may be familiar to County Council in that they are previously owned by Grey County and were transferred to Grey Highlands in 2021. At that time, Grey County didn't need the property. However, Grey Highlands still required the property to store sand and salt for winter maintenance purposes. The proposal would be to acquire a portion of lands back from the new from Grey Highlands for the new paramedic base, while Grey Highlands still retaining the portion of lands that contains a salt and sand dome. The recommendation is that county staff would work with Grey Highlands staff to acquire a portion of lands back at no cost to the county or the municipality. The only costs associated with the land transfer would be, other than any survey and legal costs associated with the land transfer, and that will be funded from the approved project budget. Grey Highlands would still retain, as I mentioned, the portion of lands that contains that dome. It's our understanding that Grey Highlands staff discussed this land transfer with council. Council generally supportive of working with the county to transfer these lands to support the new Feversham base. Constructing a new paramedic base at this location will provide obviously additional emergency response coverage to this part of the county, which benefits residents who live in close proximity to this location. Next slide, please. The Feversham base build is included in the 2025 approved budget with a construction start date to commence this year. The total cost for the new Feversham base, including land acquisition costs, consulting fees, and construction costs, is estimated at $1.6 million to be funded by debenture. And this slide on the screen here shows a design concept for the proposed new Feversham base. The base design is different than the Durham base, as the Durham base required additional storage, as well as an additional bay from an operations perspective, just given the central location of the Durham base to the overall county. We anticipate that the remaining new bases to be constructed in Feversham, Ayton, Thornbury, and Cobble Beach would mimic the design that's shown on the screen here. Next slide, please. So this slide shows a draft floor plan of the Feversham base. And the goal is to create efficient and effective purpose-built bases that will better meet the needs of staff and facilitate better response times. Energy efficiency considerations will also be considered as part of this base and have been also incorporated into the Durham base, as well as subsequent bases. This will ensure that ongoing utility costs are minimized, ensure that the county's buildings are on track to be net zero by 2045, as per the approved Going Green and Gray Climate Change Action Plan. Similar to the Durham base, staff will look for grant funding opportunities to add further energy efficiencies to the design while still staying within the proposed budget. Preliminary discussions have occurred with Planning and Transportation Services. The lands are designated as agriculture in the county official plan and Grey Highlands official plan, and the lands are also within the aggregate resource area. Both OPs permit lot creation for infrastructure or public use purposes. The lands are zoned as institutional in the Grey Highlands zoning bylaw, which permits municipal buildings. All the other yard and lot coverage requirements associated with the institutional zone can be met. There will be a site application that's required from Grey Highlands, and we can ensure that any compatibility matters with surrounding land uses can be addressed by looking at things like tree buffers or fencing, and we'll work with those neighboring landowners to mitigate any potential impacts. Next slide, please. Like the Durham base, staff recommend taking what's called a hybrid design build approach. A design build contract is a single agreement between the owner and the contractor and covers the responsibilities associated with the design as well as the construction phase of the project. Internal staff, primarily Aaron Whitney from our housing department, will prepare the architectural design drawings, and we'll have those reviewed and stamped by a structural engineer. The county would also retain an engineering consultant to prepare the design for the site services. The site will require a well, a septic, and there would be stormwater design required as well. The contractor would be responsible for designing the mechanical and electrical aspects of the build, and we'd be obviously responsible for delivering the project according to the owner's design specifications and budget. This base, similar to the Durham base, it's a fairly straightforward build. The site is generally flat. It's a greenfield property, and we think it's ready to go from a construction perspective. So that's all very positive. Following the completion of the preliminary site investigations and design specs, staff will finalize and release the tender package and bring back the tender results to council to award the contract. Next steps, please. In terms of next steps, so staff would enter into an access agreement with Grey Highlands to conduct preliminary site investigations and consulting work. We would then hire an engineering consultant to conduct preliminary site investigations, including a servicing study, soils, geotech analysis, an environmental site assessment, and an archaeological assessment. The same engineering consultant would assist with finalizing the service design and stormwater design. We will also hire a surveyor to prepare a reference plan required to transfer the lands. Staff would prepare an agreement of purchase and sale and bring forward a bylaw to council to authorize the final transfer of the base lands. Again, as noted, a site application will be prepared and we'll submit that to Great Highlands, followed by a building permit application. We'll prepare the tender package and release that as noted and bring back a report to award that contract. And then the cost for all the site investigations, the legal fees, the survey work, additional studies would be funded through the approved budget for this project. Next slide. So that just covers the Feversham base in terms of what we're proposing in terms of moving forward. We also wanted to make council aware of another base that's being currently explored that wasn't identified in the deployment review. We wanted to at least provide some initial information for council to be aware of this, and then bring back a subsequent staff report once we've done some further investigations. So the current Dundalk base is located within a shared facility with the Dundalk Fire Department. And based on growth and development that we've seen occur in the Dundalk area, the Dundalk Fire Department has indicated that they may require the entire building to support their future operations. Based on this, paramedic staff are currently investigating options to potentially relocate the Dundalk paramedic base. So one option that is being explored is to renovate a portion of the transportation services depot in Dundalk to house the relocated paramedic base. Transportation staff have indicated that once the new Patrol D has been constructed, they would likely only need 1 to 2 bays in the Dundalk depot, which leaves 2 to 3 bays that can be renovated and used for the paramedic base. The hope is that there will be sufficient remaining budget room in both the Durham paramedic base project budget and this Feversham base project to fund the Dundalk renovations. This would result in staying with the amount budgeted to borrow through debenture for all 3 projects. And next slide, please. So this is a picture of the Dundalk depot. As you can see, there's currently 5 bays in that building. So as noted, once the Patrol D is built, transportation through discussions with Pat and his team, think that 1 to 2 bays may be required. So the remaining 3 bays could be renovated potentially for the paramedic base. So again, staff are still in the process of investigating this potential option. We'll bring back a further staff report to council once we've done those investigations. So the recommendation at this stage is primarily again focused on the Feversham base, and Madam Warden already read that motion, so I won't repeat it. So the motion there is on the screen for committee's consideration.
Thank you, Deputy CAO, and Director McNabb is also available for addressing any comments or questions that come from council members. So with that, we'll begin over here with Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and thank you, Randy, for your report. Just want to sort of give an overall comment that it's good to see this is moving forward, as we know this is an underserviced area. We'll say that I know there has been a few incidents that maybe when it comes to people's health, timing is the essence. And also, I think with regards to Simcoe County and to the east, with regards to that borderline, I think this will probably help that a little bit as well. But just as far as the site, I think we were gracious to receive it from the county a few years back, and you have a lot of conditions to receive it back. But anyway, the site, I think at one time was excavated, and it's a little low. And I'm sure you're quite aware of it. So as far as archaeological, there probably is nothing left, but it is a bit of a low. So I don't know for stormwater or that type of thing. Mind you, our building that we had to rebuild, I think it was $841,000 for a new salt dome, is a little low too. So I guess you have to sort of go with the lay land, but it seems to be lower because I think at one time it was excavated or something with a small gravel pit or something like that. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. sure you guys have in good hands, but anyway, good to see.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Warden Matrosoff. So I'm just wondering, and maybe it was in the deployment review and I don't recall, Randy, but is there a formula in terms of, you know, growth related to the need for an extra paramedic bay? Is it so many homes, then you require another paramedic bay or another ambulance in that area? Thank you.
Good morning, council. When the comprehensive deployment review was done, what they did is they looked at the overall increase of call volume of 5.8% per year. And then looking at that over 10 years and then matching that with resources. So they say in the next 10 years, and we have a report coming next time, that this 5.8 will end up being a 68% increase over the next 10 years. We're averaging over the last 3 years 5.6. So we're fairly close to those numbers. And what they did is they more or less came up with the amount of resources to put in to the service. And what they did is kind of balanced out, you know, where to put those services. You can see this year, our busiest areas, or sorry, 2024, we put a car in Owenstown and in Hanover, where our busiest areas are. But then we're balancing out the rurality and trying to spread out some of those response times as well by adding resources in areas like Feversham. And then eventually when we talked about adding the bases, will be because we needed places to put the ambulances. We're spreading out some of those areas even into Eaton and Thornbury and Cobble Beach. So it is a balance. So they made a recommendation based upon the number of vehicles, and then we further went into that by adding additional bases outside of the traditional 8 that we had when we started.
Okay, thank you very much. And we do have, you maybe don't want to go too far. We've got another question from Councillor Bordenyo.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you, a question for Randy. It's a simple question. For clarity purposes, the land was Grey County, then it was Grey Highlands. So a portion, so there'll be, the ownership will be a portion still remain by Grey Highlands, and the other portion will be, I guess, owned, to use the word, by Grey County. So we're severing this piece of property for 2 ownership, just for clarity. Is that correct, Randy?
Through you, Warden. Yes, that's exactly what is being proposed, is that we'll survey that part of the property and do a land transfer. So that north portion would then become property of Grey County. The remaining portion that contains the current salt sand dome would remain with Grey Highlands.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here from in the chamber, so we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and through you, and through whether it was Randy, but it's probably more towards Kevin, Director McNabb. We are building more paramedic services to get the service closer to residents and to recognize the growth and whatnot that we have in the residency. Are we taking into consideration from the Ministry of Health closing down rural hospitals, and where that plays into the fact of transportation from these services to where we're going to be taking anybody by ambulance to a hospital? As we build out to get closer and more less response time, obviously, the Ministry of Health continues to close hospitals or close hospital access. How do we coordinate that with where we're building our new paramedic services? Or, as Councillor Nielsen has said, today, after we vote, that will be all cured by how we vote today and who ends up in Queen's Park and is running the Ministry of Health? That's a pretty tough question, but I know you can answer it.
Okay, so thank you very much. We'll look for a response from staff within the context of this report. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a tough question. But what we do look at is really primarily response times to get to the calls, as quickly as possible. So by adding resources, allows us to be available when the next call comes in. By spreading out our resources to the best of our ability, shortens those windows of response time. What we look at is really like an 8, 10, and 15-minute response. Obviously, you want to get there as quickly as possible, but 8 minutes is really the goal in an urban area, and 15 minutes across the county outside of that, 9 times out of 10. So that's how we focus the response time. Okay. As far as where hospitals go, it's hard to determine that. It's really what response.
And to follow on to Kevin's point, in Grey County, and Kevin has spoken to this, I think, in earlier reports, we adjust our resources all the time based on where they move, right? If calls come in here, you're moving ambulances around to backfill them. Maybe Kevin, you want to talk about what happens when you don't have bases in the right places. What happens to people that have been moved around, or what happens with that movement, and where do ambulances end up sitting and waiting so that they're close to a call?
Yeah, so for us, we have a deployment plan that speaks clearly, with the number of vehicles in the system where they would stage. And right now it's just today we have 8 bases. So as long as there's at least 8 vehicles available, they sit at one of each base. And then outside of that, if there's a call in Durham and we're down to 7 vehicles, we'll sit in Allen Park. So we split the difference. And the idea again is back to, most of the calls are in the urban areas. So that's where we stage the vehicles. And then when we can't have coverage in those urban areas, then we split the difference as much as we can, trying to keep within that 15-minute window. And it's all day long. But there's times in the county where we're down to 2 or 3 vehicles. And then it's, sometimes it could be a 20, 30-minute response. And then from there, you're just hoping another call doesn't come in. But as a supervisor or manager, we look at the calls that haven't happened yet, because we know the resource is being sent to the one that's already there. But it's like, what happens? We don't know where the next call is coming in. So we need to be able to plan for that in a moment.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go to Deputy Warden Milne next, and then we'll go to Councillor Mackey after that.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just to go to the Dundalk piece of that report, I just want to clarify, it says in there that the transportation services in Southgate may need that extra bay. I don't want to speak for the fire department in Dundalk, but I can assure you they will need that bay. And I truly appreciate Kevin's and other staff, their flexibility to discuss options of how we can accommodate everybody in a timely manner. And so I just wanted to make that distinction that they will need that, or they do need that extra bay, because they've got more equipment there than they've got doors. So with the growth in Dundalk, we need that capacity there. So again, I want to say I appreciate Kevin's ability to work with us. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Warden Matrosoff. Good morning, County Council. Kevin, thanks very much. In the design, I saw wellness rooms, and it's great to see that recognition is there to support our paramedics. Can you just explain to us how the studies have shown the benefits of wellness rooms, please?
There's multiple functions to that room. It's a room that, for it's quiet, meditated, calming, place to go after calls, to rest, to think, to reflect. It's a place that you can meet privately with a peer support member. So they are quite beneficial as having a place that people can go. And also, as far as having light fitness equipment where they can exercise and stretch and stuff like that afterwards as well. So it's a dedicated spot through, and then now they'll be located throughout the county, that if somebody needs to meet with the peer support, which is a very important part of our program as far as debriefing after a call, that they'll be available for them there.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any further hands. So we'll go over to Councillor Greg.
Thank you. And through you, Warden, this question be to Randy.
It just has to do with essentially severing that land. Do we hold ourselves to the exact same standard in terms of process and what is appropriate? I just look at the surrounding rural uses. If one of those farmers wanted to sever off a property and construct a house, I want to just be confident we're acting in no different way and applying the same rules we would to the private landowners.
Through you, Madam Warden, thank you for that question. As noted, the zoning is institutional, which would permit a building of this nature. We will be required going through a site plan application, which would be very similar to another building that's non-county or non-municipal related. Through that process, we're hoping to work with some of those surrounding property owners to ensure that any potential impacts can be mitigated. In speaking with Kevin from an operations perspective, we have bases already that are within residential areas and throughout the county. And so from an operation perspective, they're very respectful in terms of noting that, especially during the evening hours and late hours, to not have the sirens on and other things, and only use those when necessary. So trying to make sure that from an operations perspective, whether or not we want to build some of that language right in the site plan agreement to ensure that any potential impacts are mitigated. So we are holding ourselves to the same standard in that we'll be going through a site plan application very similar to what others would be required to do.
And next we'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you. And through you to Randy, just follow up on that. Was consideration ever given to just leasing the land back?
So that is always an option. Our Craig Leith paramedic base is, we currently have a lease arrangement with Town of Blue Mountains, a long-term lease arrangement for sharing the property or sharing the space with Blue Mountains Fire Department in this case. So that's another option that can be pursued if for whatever reason a consent or a severance is not possible for this property. Based on all the provisions that are in both the official plans for the county as well as Grey Highlands, we think there is a path forward to do the actual land transfer, but a land lease option is also a potential option if that is required.
Okay. Looking for any further hands? Not seeing any. Therefore, I think we're ready to call that vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much. We have one more report to have a look at. It's recommended that County Council receive report CSR CW 0225 for information. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Carlton, seconded by Councillor McKay. And we have Ms. Cockrell to address this. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm here today to provide an update on our progress thus far with our directed growth plan within the CWOC system for the province of Ontario's plan to increase licensed childcare spaces. The system has been in place for 2.5, almost 3 years now. And within that time, we have seen a lot of great improvements, a lot of growth, but we are also experiencing some challenges. Progress to date would be, we initially received 504 spaces. With some discussions with the province, that number was increased to 644 spaces. Within 3 years, we have seen an increase of 516 licensed spaces eligible for the CWOC financial assistance, which is a great relief to many families in our community. We've included some charts for your review and for your reference. You can see that we have seen good growth in our toddler and preschool spaces. So that would support the children who are 18 months up until they start kindergarten. And then we've also seen some kindergarten space improvement as well. Target achievement. So as we have, within the 644 spaces allocated to us, we're at 90% completion already. Our allocation has been committed to with other projects for 2026. So we don't have any concerns that we will meet those targets within Grey County, which is great news. We are also maintaining the provincial auspice thresholds. The province requires that our for-profit and nonprofit ratio is 70% nonprofit and 30% for-profit, and currently we're sitting at 78 and 22. So despite the excellent growth that we've seen, we are seeing some pressures. Despite those increased spaces, our operators are still reporting over 2,000 children on their wait lists. We do want to note that some children could be on more than one wait list, but regardless, that would still be a very high number for us to try to accommodate. Excuse me. With the announcement of the new benchmark funding formula last year, we had 3 existing operators that had not opted into the CWALT system request to enroll. Unfortunately, due to space considerations and funding applications, we were only able to enroll 2 of those sites. The remaining 4 have been included in a report to the province requesting funding and space allocations to support that enrollment. Since the writing of this report, I've also had another operator that had closed during COVID reach out to me asking to enroll to reopen. And we have 3 centers that have reached out this month alone saying they have the capacity to expand, that we cannot approve at this time due to space and funding restraints. Additionally, we also have 11 centers in other municipalities that would like to expand into Grey County as well, 2 of which feel they could be up and running this year. So our actions have been that we have advised the province of these pressures. We have continued to maintain communication with those who are interested, and we continue to work with OMSA and our neighboring partners to advocate for additional spaces in an effort to support these pressures that our operators are feeling. The space allocation takes into consideration the annual funding provided by the province, but expansion outside of the provincial allocation would require levy contribution. I'm happy to take any questions about our strategic growth plan.
Thank you. Okay, we'll begin over here with the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and thank you, Tara, for the report. Going back to what Savannah said earlier in her report, we're seeing more of a balancing in the labor market. In the past, there's certainly been more spaces than could be provided because of those labor constraints. Are we seeing that those kinds of pressures are starting to even up so that we can actually employ people to provide those spaces? Thank you.
Thank you for the question through you, Warden. We are seeing some centers that have been able to stabilize their staff and increase their staff. Not all of those staff are qualified registered early childhood educators, but they do meet the qualifications to support the expansion that they have been able to do within their existing licenses. So I would say, yes, some centers have been able to see an increase in that staff, which has been nice to see.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosov, and Deputy Warden Milne did speak to my main topic, which is going to be whether or not we're able to staff these positions and seeing the growth. But with the sites that are outside of Grey County that are looking to move into our area, there are profit centers that are not enrolled in the QUELC, and they would be welcome to open up shop and operate. There's no restrictions on them. We're just talking about sites that may be not able to operate because a funding model for the QUELC system doesn't exist. And so from the sites that are interested in moving to our area, are any of those the profit centers that are looking to not be in QUELC, or is strictly the ones that are interested in that QUELC system?
Through Madam Warden, that is an excellent point. All of the centers that have reached out to us do want to be enrolled in the CWALT system.
Okay, thank you. Looking, and we'll go to the CAO.
Thanks, Madam Warden. Tara, just a couple of things for the benefit of council. So it's the current funding agreement and the cap on the available funding that's preventing willing centers from being able to offer more spaces. We believe that potentially there are staff there to staff spaces if the funding was available to allow the centers to proceed. When does the CWALT funding agreement between the province and the federal government, when is that up for renegotiation?
Currently, we're anticipating that for 2026 will be the last funding year in the current agreement. And then with some unknowns of future elections, we're not sure where that will go after that at this time.
And the one other thing, Tara, maybe you can help people to understand. Under Seawell, what do you pay for a toddler space and what are you likely to pay a private provider? What's the difference in the cost to a family?
Right through you, Warden. Currently within the CWalk system, a toddler space, no family would pay more than $22. The same would be for preschool and infants. Private rates for infants would range anywhere from $50 to $70 a day. Preschool would be anywhere from $45 up to $65 a day. So definitely a huge savings for our programs as well.
Are you aware of any service providers that have moved towards putting a levy contribution towards this situation?
I have not heard of any at this time. We do have an ONSA meeting this afternoon, so I can certainly put that question forward.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Warden. Tara, is there any means testing done to access these beds? Can any, financial level access these beds? My understanding was, someone making $200,000 would have access to these beds. Is that accurate?
Sorry, through you, Warden. That's correct. It is a universal program, so there is no financial component to those accessing the CWalk system. We still do have our fee subsidy program for families that are eligible that aren't able to pay that $22 a day. We can still support them. Otherwise, all of the systems, it would be whoever can register for the space is welcome to use it.
I'm sorry, did you have a follow-up?
So I'm just wondering how many needy families are not able to access these beds because there's others that probably could afford to pay the full shot are using them. Has that been looked at all? I mean, the program's there for specific families to be able to allow them to continue to work and not be under undue hardship, but it just seems to be a loophole in this program that doesn't seem fair. Thanks.
Thank you. We have certainly identified that with the province as a constraint and a concern. We want to certainly support those families who are looking to work and maintain a lifestyle for their families. We have identified that we do not have any access to financial income for families that are not part of fee subsidy. We don't have authorization to access that. So there's no way for us to means test at this time, but we have certainly put that forward to the province as well.
And one other point of clarity then, Tara, for the people that are in the private with a private provider, the fees that you pay that's also something that you can claim on your income tax, correct? Yes.
If I may just expand on that, we have had a restriction implemented that if your program is not enrolled in the CWalk system, the existing subsidy families may continue to use there, but we are not permitted to enroll anyone else who's eligible for fee subsidy in those programs, even if they had space, because they are not enrolled in the CWalk system.
Councillor, no, okay. Any other questions then? Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Cockrell, for navigating through that information for us. I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. At this point in time, we can return to item 6B and CAO Wingrove, if you would like to provide us with some comparison with the Ontario. Oh, let me get the motion on the floor for you, and then we can look at our Western Ontario Wardens Caucus information. So with that, it's recommended that the correspondence from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus regarding support for Canadian and Ontario government's negotiations with the U.S. government on trade tariffs be received for information. It's moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor McKay. It's on the floor for discussion. CAO.
Thanks, Madam Warden. So just to draw council's attention to the fact that very similar to the information provided by the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, which is the group that we're a member of, did provide a media release on February 11th. indicating their strong support for the government of Ontario and the government of Canada as they work to navigate the challenges posed by tariffs and other trade restrictions. Western Wardens recognizes that these barriers create significant challenges for industries that are vital to our region's economic stability, job creation, and long-term prosperity. And the release goes on to talk about the importance of buying local, working together, and supporting local suppliers and local industries. I wanted to say that Savannah and her team have been involved in the ongoing discussions with their colleagues across Western Ontario region as those economic development professionals, bring their knowledge of what's happening on the ground, the challenges, and sometimes the opportunities that they're hearing. They're bringing that together to a single table to inform the Western Ontario Wardens response, and then their communications again back to the province and the federal government. So thanks to Savannah and Steve for that. Thanks.
Thank you. And I can also confirm too that on the wider scale, the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative representation will be next week on Capitol Hill for the Great Lakes Day, along with the Great Lakes Commission. So that's a very joint effort to be able to bring forth all of the same kind of similar calls that we have. I imagine a lot of the messaging will be underscoring and supporting what FCN had done earlier by visiting down to the States to say why it's so important to our municipalities on the Canadian side of the border that we maintain our working relationship in terms of the economic, the blue economy, as we call it. Okay, great. So with that, then we've got a question, Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Warden. I'm just wondering if anyone can speak to the legislative barriers that may be involved that the province would need to look at. In the memo, it speaks to the legislative barriers that may be presented.
Thank you. And I think in the short presentation that we made at the end of the last meeting, we talked about the thresholds that we're subject to based on the interprovincial trade agreements, that we only have so much leeway in our ability to buy local. For example, who are we inviting to respond to tenders and that, and what's the threshold of that project size? So as we have this broader discussion around removing those interprovincial trade barriers, one of the things that they're wanting to do is see that legislation as a whole move forward, but also to adjust some of those thresholds so we have more flexibility in that way in being able to select local businesses and Canadian industries as suppliers to us for goods and services.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, not seeing any then, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Item 8, we do not have any closed meeting matters, so that allows us to move on to item 9, other business. And we'll go to Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Madam Warden and County Council. Just a query or inquiry comment in the sense that our transit is going to come to the end of March. So we will know that there will be a new government tomorrow. And obviously the original contract is coming to an end. Is it viable for yourself or others to make a delegation to the government, whoever that is, in the near future, to see if there's a possibility of continuing this service from the province? And I throw that out for discussion point. I know that maybe there's different models that we could look at, as well as maybe even from the lower tier to the county and, partnership that way. But I just wondered if it's worth investigating.
Thank you. Maybe I'll just start and then hand it over to CAO Wingrove. That indeed, working in partnership with our lower tiers, but also working up within the Western Wardens Caucus too, because we're not the only one that's seen the end of this provincial funding. So the larger the the challenges, the larger collective that we have, then the more effective communication we can have. But indeed, we don't necessarily need to wait to our delegations for AMO and Roma. There is an opportunity to continue to open dialogue along the way. So with that, I'll look over to CAO Wingrove for further comments.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. I'm sure that many of you have seen the social media responses after we provided notice, which we had to do in fairness to our service provider and in fairness to the ridership that would be affected by this. We had to give them some time to make alternate arrangements for themselves. Council's aware, I think that we have put in an application to the OTIF program, which is the follow-on program that the province announced. So GTR, or our Grey Transit route, was funded through the Community Transportation Program. And now the program that they announced in November was the Ontario Transit Infrastructure Fund, OTIF. We did work with our colleagues in Bruce and Dufferin to put an application forward for that. That application was submitted the first week of January. We continue to speak with the province around the ask and how that could play out. As you're aware, the one portion of the GTR service that remains at this time is the Dundalk through to Orangeville, since that was a really critical employment route. Both the Grey County and Dufferin County had provided some funding towards the continuation of that, with the hope that we would be successful with an OTIF application that would allow it to continue for the rest of the year. But right now, the funds that Grey County and Dufferin have provided will support that portion of the service to run until June. And then after that, the funds will be exhausted. I am hopeful that we'll hear something from the province before that time, though, so that we'll be able to move forward together. It's the challenge. The province allocated $5 million a year to OTIF. When you think about what our own program cost, and you think about the whole province being eligible to that, will be very difficult to see a lot of service for that amount of money. So we'll need to be very strategic in what we're asking for. The idea behind the OTIF application was that we wanted to take this current year to be very strategic, to understand who were our potential system partners, who's got money in transit right now. And if we pooled some of those funds, could we meet or exceed the service level that's currently being provided? Some of our nonprofits, home and community support services, as well as SMART, are very challenged, as were we, to meet the demand. And so we have a lot of work ahead of us to try and see our way through this. And the 3 counties is a huge geography. So trying to think about how you could even get a start to that is something that we're anxious to get started on, and we hope to work with the province on being able to do that.
Okay, excellent question. Okay, just a brief follow. I just want to keep the floor open for any other members that have any other business.
So yeah, just to follow up, thank you very much for that, Madam CEO. And I guess the point is I know, as I understand, the previous contract were limited to charge. There was limitations. So I don't know if there's a possibility of having conversations with the lower tiers, the county, the province, to look at maybe a new model. Because obviously those that are using it or are currently using it find it useful. But I remember the conversation that we were limited to what, like, I look at Scott Gregg over there, Councillor Gregg, and we were limited to what we could charge because of the way that grant was structured. So maybe there's dialogue with the users as well. Because if you either use it or you lose it, but you may have to pay to keep it going as well. So maybe there's a conversation that could be had of all the beneficiaries of that.
That's an excellent point. Right now, our flat fee fare is not, certainly not means tested, but also doesn't take into account the distance that you might be traveling. So some people are able to travel quite a long way for a minimal amount of money. Many of the people who go through our surveys and that have told us if it wasn't for GTR, they'd be staying home because there just isn't any other way for them to get from A to B. So again, it's a fine balance there between being fair to everyone that's contributing to the system, as at the same time ensuring that the people who need a service the most are able to access it. So that's all, I think, part of our analysis that we wanted to do this year.
Okay, and certainly as we get more information, as we hear about progress on the OTIF application and our work with the counties, et cetera, we can keep this coming back when staff have further updates for us. And certainly one of the key takeaways from the funding that we have done, the process that we have done is, yes, we've tapped into those who need it, you know, and we know who they are and we know how to reach out to them. So we've learned a lot from this process, and we don't want to, we will not lose sight of everything that we've gathered and learned in order to be able to produce a model that could work if we can figure out the best partnership with the funding. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and not to put too much of a point on it, but the current government had every opportunity to extend the funding for this program, and we have made it very clear to them how important this is to our residents, but they chose not to, and here we are.
Thank you. Okay, so good topic to discuss. We'll look forward to some further progress with that, we hope. Other business, not seen any. Okay, I'll put a call out then. Item number 10, are there any notices of motion to serve? Not seen any hands go up. In that case, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Dobreen and seconded by Councillor McQueen. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much.